Today we're going to fill out this DADS foldable, which is just another way to help us remember what we do when we combine integers. This setup is a little different as far as the video is concerned. Up at the top you can see the letters DADS, DADS. That's what's on the outside of your foldable. And then below that I have two rows of rectangles. The first row is the inside top, and then the second row is the inside bottom. So I'm going to show you what's going to be written on each piece. The first letter we're going to tackle is D, and that is going to stand for double signs. So we're going to go ahead and in the inside of your foldable, the inside top, in the first D, you're going to write double signs. And when you see a double sign, you're going to combine all the double signs to make a plus sign. So that's what we have in the upper box behind the first D in our DADS foldable. Now on the inside bottom, so right underneath that, we're going to do some examples. Let's say that you see a positive 4 and then a double negative. Oops. So you have 4 and then a minus and then a minus 3. Okay, so you have 4 and the opposite of negative 3. This is the same thing as same thing as 4, positive 4, and positive 3. So that's what you need to write down there. And let's do one more example. If we have a negative 5 and a positive 2, that is the same as negative 5 and 2, or negative 5 and positive 2. So that's what you should have in the bottom half of that part of your foldable. Now the A stands for absolute value. And when you are combining integers, you want to find the integer that has the greater absolute value. This is the sign for your answer. So let's look at some examples. If you're combining negative 10 and positive 4, if you look at the absolute values of both of those integers, the absolute value of negative 10 is 10, the absolute value of positive 4 is 4. So the one that has the greater absolute value is negative 10. This means that when we combine those two integers, the sign of our answer is going to be a negative sign. So here, in this instance, we have negative 10 and 4 positives. And so when we combine those, we're going to end up with negative 6. Another example would be a positive 15 and a negative 3. If we look at both of the absolute values for those integers, positive 15 has a greater absolute value than negative 3 because positive 15 is 15 spaces away from 0 on the number line. Negative 3 is only 3 spaces away from 0 on the number line. So when we combine these two integers, our outcome or our answer is going to be positive. And in this case, when we have a positive 15 and a negative 3 and we combine them, then what we have left is a positive 12. All right, so far we have the first D and the A of DADS done. Now we need to figure out what the second D is, and that's going to be what we do if we are combining integers that have different signs. When we are combining integers with different signs, we want to find the difference between the two numbers. For example, if we are combining a positive 50 with a negative 14, we know that those have two different signs, right? We have a positive and a negative. So at this point, we've already checked for double signs. We've already looked at the absolute value. And so we know that the answer here is going to be a positive value. We just have to find the difference between the two numbers. And the difference between 50 and 14 is 36. So when we combine a positive 50 with a negative 14, then we have a positive 36. Likewise, if we have negative 75 and positive 12, we're combining those two integers. They do have different signs. Now, again, we've already checked for double signs. We've already looked at the absolute value at this point. And so when we look, we know we are going to have a negative answer. And then we just find the difference between 75 and 12. Well, the difference between 75 and 12 is 63. So the answer here would be a negative 63. And last, but certainly not least, maybe we're combining integers and the two integers that we're combining have the same signs. If they have the same signs, then all we do is find the sum. It is that simple. Our first example would be a negative 7 combined with a negative 8. So we could say we have 7 negatives and 8 negatives. When we're combining those two negatives, because they have the same sign, all we have to do is find the sum of the two numbers. So the sum of 7 and 8 is 15. We know our answer is going to be negative because we've already gone through the other letters of our DADS foldable. We know that the absolute value of negative 7 is 7, and the absolute value of negative 8 is 8. And because negative 8 has the greater absolute value and it is negative, our answer will be negative. And then we find the sum, and the sum between, or the sum of 7 and 8 is 15. So it's a negative 15. Let's take a look at this one right here where we're doing negative 10 minus 3. Okay, this is the same thing as doing a negative 10 and a negative 3. So combining a negative 10 and a negative 3. When we do that, if we have two negatives that we're combining, then we know the answer right away is going to be a negative. So we can go ahead and put that. And then we just find the sum of 10 and 3. And 10 plus 3 is 13. So when we combine 10 negatives and 3 negatives, we would have 13 negatives. So guys, make sure you've got all of this written in your foldable. And this is just another way to think of combining integers, a nice little trick to help you remember the steps we follow to be successful when we combine.